Hey, it's Nicole. So excited to have you back listening to the Serial Entrepreneur Show. And I'm excited to introduce you to today's guest, Justin Bennett. Justin is a fellow Michael Michalowicz fan, just like me. So we're probably going to geek out and talk a lot about that. But let me tell you, Justin is nationally recognized as one of America's top financial coaches. He's coached over 1,000 household and, small business owners too, on how to win with their money. I love that sentence so much, win with their money. He's got a decade of coaching clients who have paid over $8 million of debt. Hey, if you're an entrepreneur who usually fast forwards intros just like this one, this is the podcast for you. Hey, just a reminder, our show is brought to you by SmartCookie Media, where we believe data tells a story, and not just any story, your business story. As a subscriber to the show or as a client, you'll get insights on profitable, data-driven marketing strategies that work for you and your business, your industry. Not some cookie cutter trends, no. Ideas that are led by your customer data so you know they'll work for you. Connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram to learn more. Everything's in the show notes. Now, let's get back to the show. Justin, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
You know I like to start off the show the exact same way. How would you finish this sentence? You know you're an entrepreneur
when you are in the marketplace solving a problem with a product or a service that you think you can do just as good or better and make $1 or $2 while doing it.
Yes, $1 or $2. Now tell me, when is the last time you wanted to take something the next level up? I bet you there's a story there.
Wow, there's always the next level up, and we're actually in the middle of that right now. And as you mentioned, I've been blessed to coach over 1,000 households. We're about 70, 80 clients a month right now. And so one of the ways we're looking at leveling up is we're in the beginning processes of looking at hiring a coach. You said Mike Michalowicz, something he said recently that I am just loving this. There's a difference between growing a business and scaling a business. And I'm like, wow, I've never realized that. And so in the process of wanting to scale the business, I need to get other coaches on the team so that I can do other things to widen the message to get more and more people. Because so many people, whether in personal finances or business, they're just living check to check, or they're not profitable in business. And as Mike says, in business, 83 or 84% of businesses are not profitable. 70, 80% of Americans are living check to check. And so there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So before we get too far into the show, tell me, what do you own? What businesses? What are you working on?
You bet. So Strong Tower Consulting, actually this month, we're celebrating 13 years as a full-time financial coach. Thank you. Thank you. And my passion is to help people who are struggling with their personal and business finances. And if I can provide them hope, we all heard KRAs or KPIs. For me, it's hope. Every call, every session, whether it's onboarding, texting, doesn't matter. I want to give hope to others and helping people get out of debt, get on a budget, be saving. If you're married, be on the same page, because it's not a comfortable subject. For most people, it's kind of daunting. In fact, one of the challenges of being a coach is sometimes we're not seen as going to the chiropractor's office or the doctor's office. We're seen as, I'm going to the principal's office to get my hands slapped for everything I've done wrong.
Right. Yeah.
And that's not what we're here for. We're not here to go, well, you did this wrong. Because believe me, I made a lot of mistakes in personal finance. So to give people a safe place to just air their laundry, that's not friends or family, and go, listen, I make way too much money to be this broke. What are we missing? Because something doesn't make sense here.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Mike's mission is to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. And it's not surprising to me that we connected. Justin and I met through the feed. What's really funny, folks, is if you're listening, you might hear my energy has changed a little bit on the show. Justin came to the show today standing at his standing desk. And so naturally I had to push away the chair. I had to stand too. But I will tell you, I probably would have gotten this excited and nerd out over all of this anyhow. Some of you may or may not know, but years ago, I managed to save for the house that we wanted to build. We were going to do it. We were going to do it. We're going to do it. But we just came out of having 2 homes. We went through the recession, all those things. We had owned a business, but I was committed to how could we find $7,000 or $14,000 that year. And by the time I set out the plan, we were over $35 plus $1,000 at the end of the year. And it really was all of the things that Justin probably talks about. I remember just being like, when was someone ever going to teach these things? And spoiler, it was not, and maybe you'll talk about it. It was not about the coffee a day. It was not about always making a lunch to go to work. I worked from home still. And so I think it's really important that what you just said was, hey, I've been there too. And there should be some safe space where you can talk about these things that's not with friends or family, because nobody has that perfect way to do it until you learn from somebody else, right? No one just walks out of the womb And it's like, I got this money thing figured out. And so we need to quit telling those lies to ourselves. Justin, I want to just go over one more stat, if I may. You said it quickly, but it's one that I always keep in mind is you said 70%. I had heard it as 67% when I looked it up a long time ago, though. 70% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. And what's amazing to me is I heard that stat probably 10 years ago, and we're just not improving that. Like we're still not improving that as a society. People still aren't talking about their money. And what I've heard is is it 1 in 10 six-figure earners don't have a saving, or 2 in 10? I thought there was a lot that don't even have a savings, and they make what they think is a lot of money, like you said.
No, absolutely. 64% of Americans don't even have $1,000 in savings. And my number is going to be a little off here, but I want to say it's 53% of Americans can't even cover a $400 emergency. And, I work with all income levels from poverty all the way to very high end six figures. And one thing I've discovered is the more you make, your natural personality comes out. If you're a natural spender, you're going to spend. If you're a natural saver, you're going to save, whatever. And so there's a lot more natural spenders out there than there are savers, givers, investors. And so when you don't know which way to go, I love what you said earlier. You don't come out of the womb. The way I say it is 18 years old, everyone feels like the switch should just flip on. And the only two things you can do without training is breathing and blinking. We have to be trained. And for whatever reason, there's a shame around, I have to learn, either read a book or listen to a podcast or hire a coach or whatever. And the reality is, no matter what you do, you've got to learn at some point. I work with six-figure income households that make $20,000 a month take-home pay, overdrafting weekly.
Yeah. So folks, if you're listening, this is for you wherever you're at. So let's get into some of those stories then, because that is really, really powerful. So tell me, what is your story? What led you to entrepreneurship, and certainly what led you to this career path?
You bet. Well, it's kind of a trifecta of things that kind of happened over a decade period. I was one of the few kids in junior high school. I already know what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in the banking industry. Someday be a president of the bank. My grandfather and my uncle were in the banking industry as well. When I say banking, they were in small community banks. So it wasn't the corporate big stuff.
Right.
And I went to a business school right out of the gate and worked for a Fortune 100 company that had about 1 million loans on the books for mortgages. And so at 18 years old, while going to college, my first job, get ready, I was a mortgage collector.
My gosh.
Interesting first gig. I'm taking anywhere between 100 to 300 calls a day. And I was the only weird person that actually semi-liked my job. Now, it wasn't because I was chewing someone out or making these audacious threats. Even though I didn't know what a budget was, I didn't know what cash flow meant. I'm 18, wet behind the ears. All I knew is you got to make more income than you have outgo. And I enjoyed the puzzle of how do you make this work? And I remember at 18, 19 going, how do you make money at something like this? Because I could really do this as a life. I couldn't figure that out. So suspend that in the air. I went pursuing my career to become a president of the bank, but meanwhile, getting worse financially at home. So we got 6 figures in debt, not counting the house. No,
not at 18. Now you were grown a little bit.
Now mid-20s. Yep, mid-20s.
Mid-20s. Okay.
Yep. And now we have 4 kids, getting ready to have our 5th child. And I bumped into this guy, you may have heard of him, Dave Ramsey, and everything made sense. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is why we're struggling. Because see, at business school, I was learning about marketing, management, accounting, nothing about savings or budgeting or how debt really worked. I didn't learn all that. The basics weren't taught. I learned all this stuff up here. So it was like I was trying to build a house from the roof down. So when Dave Ramsey came into my life in terms of his process and principles and things, that idea reemerged of, I bet I would have a lot more fun doing this than banking. And the nail in the coffin was in 2008, 2009, a lot of banking regulations were changing and they weren't for the better. I'm going to all these seminars and I'm seeing all these bankers, 50, 60 years old. Everyone in the room looks depressed, numb. I'm in my 20s. I've got 30, 40 plus working life left. No one here seems like they're having any fun. What I discovered, a phrase I've developed, is I love to help hurting people. Oh. And what's so cool about finance is I get to play like part pastor, part career coach, part financial, a marriage counselor, all of that in there. Because when you deal with money, every decision we make, directly or indirectly, money plays a role. Yeah. So what car you buy, what gum you buy, what you do for a living. And so what's so cool is when I get to coach people, oftentimes other things kind of rise to the surface that they're like, I don't even know why I just said this to you, but we need help here. And it's like, great.
Incredible. So talk to me about those that are hurting, they're struggling with their finances. They could be in different places with that, right? There could still be some money or not some money. My thought has always been, how in the world do you help them if they can't pay anything else on time? How do they make sure that they pay you on time? I had written appeal letter after appeal letter when my little guy came out of NICU because he was $1 million baby. No joke. $985,000 was the first numbers I saw hit the insurance. And I appealed 22 times, won 19 out of 22 appeals. And people started saying, like, you should do this for others, right? Everyone will be like, you could, you should, you could. I'm like, I can't pay my $985,000 medical bills. But you think that somebody else without money can pay for this. So talk me through a little bit about that business model, because to me, it's one that has always been really eye-opening. I worked in loan mortgage origination right before the recession and then hopped out right after. And so it's one of those things that while we get really good at when it's part of our job to help someone through their financial crisis at that moment or something like that as a loan originator, it would be hard to keep getting paid. So tell me about that.
Well, first, what I do is I teach people how to rob a bank. No, I'm kidding. That's not what we do. And I can relate. My nephew was born in the NICU. And so understand all the struggles and the burden. You know what I've discovered? A lot of people come to me, and I do always start with a free 30-minute session just to build some relationships and trust and to say, does this guy even know what he's talking about? But often what I'm finding out are people are disorganized and they really don't know what's going down. And you mentioned for you was at Starbucks, but I'm amazed at the number of people who come to me just I don't get it. I don't drive a luxury car. I don't go on a luxury vacation. I make more money now than I've ever made before. And yet we're more broke than we've ever been before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, when we start analyzing it, and I go through every little bit of it, here's what I discovered. Number one, there's a lot more spending going on. May not be Starbucks, but it could be online shopping.
Sure. Right.
It may be for the kids. When you get on a real budget, you find out how much schools and churches are always taking your money for one thing or another. And what I discover is most people can pay their bills, but what gets them all sidetracked is there's this thing called car registration and Christmas and kids' activities and clothing. And those aren't bills. And the number of times the first session, I'm going through line by line. Well, how much is this? Oh, well, we don't do that. So I'll pick on one like work lunch. Oh, I always bring my work lunch. Really? So if you're in blue collar, I go, you never go to a gas station, get a pizza and a Red Bull. Well, on Friday, well, that's money. You got to count that.
Yes. Yes.
And if you have 20 line items that you're not putting money to, $30 of spending a day is over $10,000 a year.
Yeah.
I usually find $500 to $1,000 in your budget you didn't know you have. I'm like, well, that sounds a little too good to be true. Well, it's the reason why you didn't know you had it is because you didn't know you're spending it. And the credit cards are picking up the slack, or the checkbook that's in the red is picking up the slack. And so I would say most clients, they don't realize it. They have the fee to pay me and do the thing. I had a client years ago, 9 kids, and 9 kids. I said that right. 70,000 in debt, and they were 4,000 in the month in the red.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Now, a joke that I kind of say, but I'm somewhat serious when I tell people this, if I can't find my fee in your budget, you hired the wrong budget coach. So when people become aware of where they really are at, and they have the best practices and the knowledge, if they're willing to commit, they'll get results. I'll never forget. There's a small business owner I was coaching years ago. There was a guy who did concrete, and he's $800,000 a year gross revenues. And I remember asking him, so what's your profit and loss? He's like, what's a profit and loss? I'm like, okay, we are starting from scratch. And I'm just thinking about my, so I did some mock things.
Yeah.
And this is back when I was in an office, like a 50-inch screen TV, and I had everything right there. And every month he was 10,000 plus in the red.
Yeah.
And all I did was show that visual. I didn't say a word. I said, here's where you are year to date for these first 6 months.
Yeah.
It got quiet. He folded his arms, a little gravel in his voice. There's going to be some changes made around here.
Yes.
And sometimes we just got to see that reality. And sometimes the reality isn't as bad as we thought. Other times it's just as bad as we thought. But going through it alone for most people is too nauseous. And so having someone in your corner, now having a coach, I'm always going to be proactive for that. But it could be a friend. It could be a mentor. Maybe you do have a family member you can trust. But having that accountability, having that person to walk alongside, that's what it really is. We could rattle off our car payment and our house payment. We know those. But do you really know what you spend on eating out? Do you really know what you're spending on Christmas? Because it's more than just the gifts. It's the wrapping paper. It's the extra food. It's the pictures and the stamps for the postcards.
Yeah.
All of that adds up.
Yeah, it sure does. Okay, great. So tell me, one of the things that we like to talk about here on the show is about distractions. Would you talk to me about the last time you were distracted in your business? maybe there was a shiny object, a squirrel, or maybe it was just your brightest idea and you took it on a whim and you found that it really works for your business today. Will you talk to me about distractions?
I hope this doesn't make your audience cringe here. I am the worst squirrel manager. And what I mean by that is shiny object syndrome. I actually can't do that because if I do, I am like ADD on steroids. I'll be all over the map. I'm working on a pretty big project right now, and I have to stay very focused and not focus on the marketing angle and the sales angle and just
Right.
get this project done because where a lot of coaches struggle, and thankfully it wasn't that I did, was in sales. It's not something they're naturally used to doing. For me, I came from banking, and so sales were not that hard. But
Yeah.
what was my problem was I was so distracted because I'm kind of embarrassed to say this on a podcast, but I wanted to be the next Dave Ramsey. I really did. I wanted to be this big presence. And there was good
Yeah.
reasons for that. And there were probably some selfish reasons that we had to work through. But here's the deal. I was trying to have a radio show. At the same time, I was trying to write a book over a decade ago. At the same time, create my own version of classes and my own referral network and newsletters. I was changing my website every other month, doing it myself. I was doing all this stuff. As Zig Ziglar used to say, don't confuse activity with accomplishment. And
Mm,
all I was doing was activity, 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 but little accomplishment. As a financial coach, I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, the first 2 years, we were struggling because
yeah.
I mean, when I first became a coach, people asked what sports teams. They didn't know what a coach was. And so what ended up happening was a good friend of mine who was in coaching and he was already becoming successful and he had sort of business prior. And he was 20 years older. I really looked up to him and said, Justin, I can tell you your problem. I'm just going to be very blunt with you. I said, dude, tell me quick because we're struggling. And he goes, you need to cut out all that stuff you're doing and just coach.
Yeah.
When your calendar is full, then go worry about all this other stuff over here. And he said the saying that he lived and died by in his second business, he's now retired, is what's the one thing I can do today that impacts my business today? In fact, I always wanted to tell Mike McAllowitz, you need to do a royalty check to this guy because you basically took that sentence and made it in 200 pages. Because I was always focusing on my business, as Michael Gerber says, but the problem was I had nothing in it.
Yes. Yeah.
And so once I go, wait a minute, you work on after you have in. When that light bulb, I didn't like what my friend had to say. In fact, I want to punch him. I'm like, dude, that hurts my pride here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was
He
so
warned you.
right.
He warned
Oh,
you.
he
He
did.
gave you a warning.
And it was so good because that began the turning point. Not that those things aren't important, but if you don't have that sales part right, the rest of it doesn't matter. And
Yeah.
that was the part that I really had to go, wait a minute, I got to get my calendar full of clients. And it was so cool. I got a call him last year on his birthday. And he's like, what are you doing? I said, well, this one wise guy once told me that if I got my calendar full, I could begin to do this. And guess what? My calendar's full. And now I'm doing
Mm,
some of these things without
yeah.
regret.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. What a great example. Okay, speaking of examples, would you share a recent case study, maybe something from 2023, something you helped somebody overcome, or maybe it's been a long time coming that they're just about to get there and cross that finish line?
Oh my gosh, there's so many stories I could tell. It's hard to pick just one. So I've got a couple that I'm working with right now on their personal finances. Even though I do small business coaching, they are small business owners. You know, married kids, they make really good money and like $150,000 in debt. And they've already paid off like $100,000 of it. They're right there. They're on the precipice. And they come into this next session. And I get this once in a while as a coach where they're making traction. And then it's almost like, surprise, they got a car loan and 2 of their credit cards went back.
Oh, no. Okay, wait. So when you say 150K in debt, are you including their mortgage?
No,
Okay. Okay. Just want to make sure. So then they come in, they're making really great progress, and then you see a couple things shoot up.
absolutely. And they said, we're going to have a conversation because I don't think we decided we're going to follow the way you and Dave Ramsey do this. It just doesn't really work for us. I said, guys, it's not about me or Dave. The problem is you guys have situational principles.
Oof. Now you're the wise guy talking to them. Oof.
Now, I am a
But
wise guy.
that's it.
But maybe not in the sense of wise, just more of a smart aleck. I just said, guys, it's not about that. It's you as a couple need to define what are your principles. And once you have principles, then you go find the plan you're going to follow. You did this in reverse order. You thought you were following this plan, but what's your stance on debt? Your principles on savings? What's your principles on following the blanks? Because when you have those principles, those non-negotiables, now you can go find the plan that works. Are you really ready to say no more debt forever and ever? Amen. If not, this plan ain't for you. It's not. That's not
Right.
wrong or right. You know, another story that comes to mind that I love to share a lot is this couple right before COVID I worked with, and they had been through the Dave Ramsey class twice. And they said, every time we get 6 months in, we do great progress and fall off the wagon. So they did my first 6 months. They paid off 30 grand in debt. They did a really amazing job. And then January 2020, they have no idea COVID's coming, but it's right there.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the call starts with the wife going, well, I'm just going to tell you, we put Christmas on a credit card. And oh, by the way, we work hard and we're going to Cancun in February and we don't care. And the husband's like, yeah, you know that truck I was going to sell? Yeah, I'm actually going to get a better one. So I'm going to get a bigger loan. And I was like, what just happened? But I remembered they said the last 2 times they've taken this class, 6 months of progress, and then boom. So I created some small talk and I have this goals form that I go through the very first session. And one of my first questions I always ask is, how hard can I push you on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being soft and laid back, 10 being direct. I charge extra for yelling and swearing. So 10 is not that.
I'm writing this down. Wait. My team's going to want to know all about this. Okay. 1 to 10, charge extra.
Yep.
What sounds like a PETA fee. Okay, go on.
Exactly. And they were both 10. So the beautiful thing about Zoom is you can share a screen. So I'm just, I'm trying to get to that form, creating some talk. There was a little bit of silence and I hit the share screen button and the husband immediately saw the 10. He's like, oh, crap. I said, guys, isn't it interesting? You told me twice you've taken a class and in 6 months, this your 7th month mark, you did it again. So I'm going to give you one assignment. Mm-hmm. I want you to go on a date and go, are we in or are we out? And you can be out. We'll still be friends, but you guys need to determine that. Well, fast forward the next month, they just got back from Cancun. And I said, so how was the trip? And the husband's like, oh, it was great. And the wife's like, I didn't enjoy it. And I go, was there another adult on this trip? She goes, yeah, you. And I go, I didn't even get to enjoy the darn thing.
At a single step on the beach.
But here's the deal, though. They came to this, wow. If we're serious about getting out of debt, we've got to see it through till the end. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy to report by the end of the year, they got debt free on everything, paid off the car loan, paid off the credit cards. And that's part of the coaching. I'm not just the guy that's, drill sergeant. All I'm going to do is you're bad, whatever. I mean, yes, we'll kick you in the pants when necessary, but we also high five and celebrate. I got a business owner that I did years ago. Her and her husband, they paid off all their debt, house included. I mean, she was crazy. Even before I met her, she was looking 5 jobs, including her own business. And I'll never forget, she sheepishly asked me in one session, my husband and I would kind of like to go on a vacation. What do you think? And I'm like, well, are you going to borrow money? She's like, no. I'm like, do you save up and pay cash? Yeah. Great. And I don't get to do this very often. Homework assignment. Go to Jamaica, I think is where it was. Go to Jamaica. Yeah. Go. Yeah. There's a homework assignment.
Yeah.
When they came back, I'll never forget her saying, she goes, Justin, 30 years ago when we went to Jamaica, we did it with debt. Mm. I didn't enjoy any of it. The entire time I was there, I got to get home. I got more money, pay off this trip.
Yeah.
But she said, this time we went and it was perfect. It was like time stood still.
I love
now, how many vacations have you been on where the time stood still? Proverbs 13:12 says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but desired accomplished is a tree of life. And when you can start seeing hope and progress, you'll keep doing it more and more and more.
Oh, I love that. Okay, wait. I just want to tell you that this episode, it's brought to you by Run Like Clockwork. There is a book, there is a program, there's a boot camp, but I want to tell you the reason why this particular episode is here, in fact, the entire show, is because of one commitment I made to make sure my business runs like clockwork. If you're interested in what that system could look like for you so that you have more freedom and flexibility to do the things that you love, say, yes, I want my business to run like clockwork without suffering any type of burnout. If you want more information, of course, reach out anytime, but I also included a link in the show notes. Okay, back to the show. I think it's really, really important here to ask you on this show because you are a different type of coach. What keeps you going? Who coaches the coach? I know that you're a Mike fan like I am, and maybe that's where you get some of that. In my case, someone just doesn't watch the video that we ask them to watch, or they don't want to open their Facebook ads manager. And I'm not a coach. I'm a service provider they pay well for. I know it's a drain, right? What you do can have a drain on you. So tell me a little about that.
It never gets old. It never gets old when that light bulb for the first time they go, oh, that's what's holding me back. Or when someone says our marriage has improved. I had one couple where they told me at the end of our last session, like, we didn't tell you this, but we were one fight away from divorce. We literally were sleeping in separate bedrooms. Oh. And it was working with you that brought this back together. So just that never gets old of just seeing hope, the light bulb, seeing people get hope when they didn't think it was possible.
Yeah, I love that. It's so good that when you said about the light bulbs going off, because what I tell people all the time is I'm riding the wave with you. Like I feel the drain or the exhaustion that they might be feeling as they go through marketing that's not working, but I'll tell them, but I know what's on the other side. Like I know it's coming if you stick with it, and you really treat this as an investment and a couple months later, what happens? And so I love that you have that same thing.
I think you hit the nail on the head. We're a hope factory here. And it
Hope
really comes,
factory.
yeah, it really comes down to that. And really, I want people to know the one thing I hear almost every time after the first month is, why didn't I do that sooner?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll never forget, I had a client a couple of years ago sign up, and she watched me from the very first time I started my coaching practice. Took her 11 and a half years to come see me. And I'm not picking on her. She ends up listening to
Sure.
this. And I go, why 11 and a half years? Not only was it shame and embarrassment, but she goes, Justin, I saw the testimonials. I've talked to everybody in town, but I didn't think it could be me. I think about the story of a lady that I worked with. She was 81 years old and she was a widow. And she was working 60 hours a week, making $9 an hour because of 20,000 in debt.
Mm.
And she wasn't blaming a soul. But I'll never forget, she kept coming in my office and I help her balance her budget. And she'd go, where'd my money go? And I go, it's right there on the screen. Oh, okay. She'd come in the next month. Where'd my money go? It's right there. She asked her the third month. I go, I don't think we're on the same. When you say, where did my money go? What do you mean? She goes, I was married for 50 years and my husband and I worked our butts off. And I can't tell you where $1 went.
Mm. Wow.
Then she pulled out her finger and gave me a grandma finger wave only grandmas get away with. You tell anyone younger than 81, which I'm assuming applies to most of your audience, get on a budget,
Yeah.
get out of debt. I don't want people to be me. This wasn't as bad as I thought. In fact, it's life-giving, not life-taking.
Yeah. Yeah. In the past few months, we've all seen a slowdown of sales cycle. People are taking a little longer for their decisions. But I know some business owners that have had to take on some either hard money loans or they've had to take on things that compound daily. Someone recently, I asked this question on the show and she was saying there was a time that she had $22,000 of interest a day. So I know there's a few people out there that are just making the decisions that they have to make because they are the leader of their organizations. And so they have to make some decisions that sometimes are tough, but they also know they can't make those same choices for forever. What would you say to some business owners that are having to make some of those choices?
Well, you're exactly right. When you're in that position, it can be very nerve-wracking, overwhelming. I've been there. I think most business owners have been there, if they're honest, the ones that are successful. Anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It can actually be one of the best times if you allow it. But the two things I always tell a client before working with them, are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? And are you humble and are you teachable? Because I know for me, when I had that coach lean into me and say, cut all that stuff out, I was near bottom as far as my emotional place. And if I wasn't humble to hear that, if I'd have, what does that guy know? I wouldn't be having this conversation right now. I can promise you. The Bible also talks about under the multitude of counsel, there is safety. When we're stressed out to the max, it can be very hard to see the forest and the trees going, what's my next right move?
Yeah.
You could probably see it for anybody else. I have people in my life that come speak truth into me, even to this day. And so I would just encourage, get some outside help. Again, is there a mentor? Is there somebody somewhere with a fresh set of eyes that can see something you can't see? Because they might plant the seed to an idea that, oh, we can't do that. But when you said X, whatever X was, I could do this in 3 to 6 months to get our cash flow back. I would just say this, and this is easy saying it on this side of the Zoom screen. But again, what are those principles? And if debt is not your friend, it's easy to go to that just to get a breath of oxygen. For most people, that compounds the problem. Money problems are actually a symptom of something deeper. And if we can find out what that is, some of the best companies that are household names started in either recession or in bad economic times.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. What is one of the key lessons you've learned as an entrepreneur? Maybe it's a mantra that you find yourself saying again and again.
Well, it goes back to what I said from my friend earlier. What's one thing I can do today that impacts the business today?
What is your definition of entrepreneurial success? When will you know you made it?
Are you fulfilling your mission? So for me, I'm fulfilling my mission. If I'm providing hope, that's success to me.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Tell me, what's the number one place you like people to connect with you online?
Absolutely. Well, there's 2 places you can do it. One is my Facebook page, Strong Tower Consulting. We update that daily. The other place is LinkedIn. Just look for Justin Bennett.
Awesome. What's next for you? Do you have a new idea percolating, something you're working on that we should know about?
Stay tuned. There's something pretty big to really widen the market. And I can't wait to share that here coming soon.
We will expect it. All right,
Well,
Justin.
thank you, Nicole, so much. This was fun.
Yeah, it was. Talk to you soon. Hey, friends, that's the end of the show. No takeaways here, but I did want to remind you of one thing that he talked about again and again, and it was hope. That he acts as a hope factory. Like, that's what he wants his business to be. And I was thinking, as a business owner right now, who do you surround yourself with when you need a little bit of hope? I hope you find them today, message them, say hello to them, get them in your life, because friends, there is hope. Whatever you're up to today, I hope you make it great. You've been listening to the Serial Entrepreneur Show, produced by the team here at SmartCookie Media.